to our all community council meeting that we have every month. And I'm so glad you're able to join us on this March 27th evening for a little bit of your time to both hear what's going on with Missoula County government and also to hear from all of you and cross-pollinate your ideas with one another as far as what's happening in your neck of the woods and your respective community councils. So to begin with, is there any public comment on items not on tonight's agenda?
I have one quick one. The Food Policy Advisory Board is going to be sending out a new survey. They did a survey in 2022, and so it's the same one, but it's for 2024. It's the Missoula Rapid Community Food Assessment. And we just didn't have quite enough time to get it on the agenda, so I just wanted to let you know that I'll be passing that information along, and the survey will be opening or is open as of tonight.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kyla. Well, and per tradition, we will run through a number of agenda items that are already listed, and you will hear from some of our subject matter experts and staff on those items, and then we'll close by opening it up to all of the representatives from the various community councils around Missoula County to do a bit of a round robin update from one another. So to get right to it, Nancy, would you like to talk to us a little bit about the Community Assistance Fund, otherwise sometimes referred to as the CAF?
Yes, thank you. I am pleased, as always, to speak about this grant opportunity. It's an annual opportunity that I would encourage all of those who are on the call to look at. I put in the chat the webpage where you can find more information. The grant application opens on Tuesday, and what this particular fund addresses are 4 basic needs, human basic needs that are needed throughout our county, and that has to do with food, shelter, medical services, and emergency transportation. The eligibility is if you're a nonprofit. So again, it's pretty straightforward, and this is a need that the county has filled for decades. It's a competitive application. As I said, on Tuesday, we will be opening a grant portal. All the details are on that page, and it opens April 2nd, closes May 15th. So please look at the application to see what's required. But the gist is the eligibility is for nonprofits who provide the services of food, shelter, medical services, or emergency transportation. And I will just give one example that is supported is up in Seeley Lake. There's the medical shuttle, the iRide program, where people who need assistance in getting to medical appointments down here in Missoula can call the Seeley Lake Community Foundation and arrange for transportation. So that is just one example. Currently, we have 20 contracts. It runs on a fiscal year. So I think that's kind of the highlights. I'm totally open to questions, but I usually like to try to cover the eligibility, when it opens, when it closes. There's no match required, and a range of those 4 services.
Thanks, Nancy. Any questions from folks? And please do use the raise hand function if you're on Teams tonight, and I'll call on you in the order in which you raise your hand. Anyone on the phone? Okay, if anyone has questions after the fact, do not hesitate to reach out and we will get you answers.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. All right, next, our very own Sarah Bell talking to us about the Substance Abuse Prevention Mill Levy. Sarah.
Thanks, Commissioner Strohmeyer. Good to see everyone tonight. This will also just be a fairly brief update, and I'm letting you know about the Substance Abuse Prevention Mill Levy funding opportunity for fiscal year 25. So this is a mill levy that was passed back in 2008 by the Missoula County voters. It's a set dollar amount every year of $368,920 that goes through a competitive application process. And the funding supports nonprofit organizations or government agencies that provide underage substance abuse prevention services in Missoula County in one or more of following ways to either maintain a coalition that coordinates substance abuse prevention efforts, or to provide community education about the risks and costs of using alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, or offer supervised non-school hour activities that give young people alternatives to drug use and opportunities for positive youth development, or an organization that provides early intervention to help youth and families address alcohol, tobacco, and other drug problems. So this funding is very specific to help youth who might be exposed to drug or alcohol. It's largely supported by the Missoula Health Department. There's the Healthy Missoula Youth Coalition that meets monthly to bring together agencies throughout Missoula County that work with youth in these areas of expertise. There's 7 current grantees receiving funding from this source, and most of those programs are in the city limits, but we are always looking for organizations who have the broader reach out into the county. The Boys and Girls Club does a good job of that, but if there's an organization out there that works with the county rural communities, we would love to see applications from those folks as well. I'm going to drop some information into the chat. Kayla Talbert will be managing the fund this year, and her information will be in the chat as well. The information I drop in the chat will have all of the questions that agencies are required to answer on their application, and it will be open in the grant portal from April 2nd to May 15th.
Thanks, Sarah. Any questions for Sarah? Okay, you've got the information in the chat. If folks have questions again after the fact, do not hesitate to reach out. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
We are rolling through this agenda. Next, we have a discussion of impact fees. So Karen Hughes, are you out there?
Hi, everyone. This is Karen Hughes. I'm with the Planning, Development, Sustainability Department, and I'm simultaneously talking and working to get to a slide deck here. All right, hopefully you can see.
Yes.
The slideshow. All right, excellent. So I am here to talk a little bit about impact fees. Hopefully this is not unfamiliar to you all. Impact fees were adopted by the county commissioners last spring, and that was after a period of public review and comment and a study that was done. And I know that the community councils were part of that conversation that happened. But at this point, we're looking at the actual collection of impact fees starting on July 1st. And so I just wanted to kind of remind folks that that's happening. And I am happy to come out and talk to community councils and talk to communities or organizations if you want more information. But just a quick reminder, I'm going to run through some slides. These are one-time fees. They're assessed on new construction that essentially help cover the costs of the expanded or needed infrastructure for that new construction. So instead of putting that on existing taxpayers, the idea is that new construction pays for that. So yes, it adds to the cost of new homes and new construction for new businesses, but the idea is that that gets covered that way instead of burdening existing taxpayers. And the commissioners, as I said, adopted these fees in spring of 2023. Again, it's really focused on new construction, so it'll be focused on the building permit, and those issued prior to July 1st will not be affected, but after that point, they will be. It doesn't address any new development that has existing additional square footage that doesn't contribute to the impacts on infrastructure, things like patios and fences and signs and retaining walls. Those won't be addressed. It's just for areas, additional square footage for homes or additional square footage for businesses, and then brand new construction for both will be affected. By and large, they're going to be collected across the county. There are some areas where there's differences in the amount that's charged based on the service area. So for most of the impact fees for general government facilities, for the detention and sheriff's office facilities, for emergency services facilities, they're countywide and it's a set amount countywide. For parks, shared use paths, those are based on these service areas. And for French Memorial Fire, there's a unique set of impact fees. Again, they're collected at building permit by and large, or in the event that a building permit's not required, but there's still an additional impact, for example, a new mobile home, then those would be addressed. I placed in the chat, I think, hopefully, a website that addresses all of this information. And as part of that, probably the most important thing is there's an impact fee schedule on that website, and there's an estimator worksheet. So anyone who's thinking about a new project can go and figure out like how much square footage, if it's a residential or if it's a particular kind of business or non-residential use, what they might be charged. And we're happy to work them through that. Quick reminder, these can be used for once we've collected them, those funds can be used for new facilities or improvements to serve new development. They can be used for financing. They can't be used for maintenance purposes. So it's just the expansion of existing infrastructure. There are some limited situations in which we might not charge them. And those are cases where the developer, for example, might have an offset, or there are opportunities if there's a affordable housing development that there might be a waiver or fee reduction. And then there's a few cases in which they might end up being refunded. And those are mostly in the case where a building permit's expired or is revoked, or there's a time limitation. If we fail to use those funds within a period of time, then we give them back. In terms of who oversees them, the commissioners, with the advice from their Impact Fee Advisory Committee, a citizen advisory board, they make decisions about how those fees are set. So they made the original recommendations and decisions about how the fees were set in the first place, and they'll review those periodically. And they'll also will guide and make decisions about how those funds are used. Our department is going to be overseeing the collection and expenditure of impact fees, and really the county finance office plays a big role in the financial monitoring. And of course, the building department, since those funds often come in at that point of the building permit, they actually collect those funds and put them in the right place so that they can be used. We're right now kind of doing another round of outreach to remind people that these are coming. And originally they were supposed to be starting to be charged on January 1st. We've done a delay to make sure that people can kind of build this into their costs. So we're starting with July 1st. And so if you have suggestions about how to get information out and make sure that the people who need to know this are aware of it, don't hesitate to let us know. And with that, I will end my slideshow and stop sharing, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you, Karen. And before we go on, I forgot to introduce myself for folks who don't know who I am. I'm Dave Strohmeyer, one of the three county commissioners. I'm joined by Commissioner Juanita Vero, and Commissioner Slotnick is unable to make it tonight. And we will begin with a hand up from Stephanie.
I have so many questions. As it applies to us and our little monstrosity of a development that is trying to go city over in East Missoula, they want to be annexed into the city, and we are county, and they're trying to get this done before your impact fees. I am 100% certain of it. If they don't make that deadline, one, who gets the money, or does it not get charged if they become annexed into the city? And two, what if they squeak in 2 days before it goes online? Do we get no money? I mean, we're talking 280 homes. in
Sure,
East
and that-
Missoula.
You're talking about the Aspire subdivision
Yeah,
along
I am
the river
exactly
there?
talking
Yeah,
about that
okay.
one.
So remember, this is not at the time of subdivision. This is at the time of building permit. So they have to have completed a complete building permit application. Furthermore, all of the county's impact fees are county-wide. So even if they're in city limits, they will still be assessed because these are fees for infrastructure that are not being assessed through the city. The city has its own impact fee program, and the city will assess fees for us as well. But they're going to come into the county for county infrastructure. So emergency management, it's a county facility and county radio system. For detention and sheriff, there is a mutual aid agreement, and the sheriff provides certain services and facility that the city doesn't provide. So they don't get a pass. Is the simple answer.
Good.
Thanks for that question, Stephanie. Rick Hall.
Hey, how do impact fees affect replacement mobile homes or manufactured homes? It's a non-owned lot. It's personal property. We don't get a lot of subdivisions out here in Bonner, but we do get, that does happen often. People upgrade mobile homes in a lot.
Sure. Yeah, I think by and large, if it's a one-to-one replacement with not additional square footage, we would probably just consider it a swap. If there's a time lag, then it probably won't be considered a swap. So the way the city does it, if you have something there, you demolish it, you replace it, or you take it off and you replace it, and we would follow the same protocol. You don't, it's as long as it's a one-to-one, you don't charge anything more. If you have additional bedrooms though, then there might be an incremental increase because you created an incremental additional impact. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rick. Grace.
Hi, I have a two-tiered question. The first part of it is, what created the need for this impact fee? What created the need for more taxing? That's my first part of my question. And I guess I'll let you answer that and then I'll ask you the second part.
Apparently my dog wants in the picture. Here, hang on a minute. Good question. So this isn't a tax. There is still taxes. What this covers is things that really aren't covered by taxes. So sure, new construction comes online and they get taxed, but there's a period of time when they don't get taxed, right? Like that they don't hit that first year. This is a one-time kind of additional expense. Furthermore, and I really wish Commissioner Slotnick was on here. He's got like all of the quick one-off pitches for how our tax system doesn't really cover the costs. So maybe Commissioner Vero or Strohmeyer has that response, but essentially our taxes aren't designed to truly cover the costs of new development. So essentially when they do these studies, they really look at what is covered and what isn't, and then this is covering that gap. And again, it's only at the time that new development happens. It's one time. It doesn't happen over and over again. It doesn't happen continuously. It's that one-time coverage of that helps cover the expense of new development, which is not addressed in our tax system.
So I just to add on to that, Grace, the bottom line is growth does not fully pay for itself. And what I hear consistently from folks all across the county is that if you've lived here for decades, people are not, whether in East Missoula or Frenchtown or Condon, what I've typically heard from folks is that they would rather not subsidize in their property taxes the new growth that's happening. And this is a way to make the folks who are creating those impacts pay their fair share.
Okay, so the reason why I asked that was because I've I haven't really dove into this enough to learn the guts of it, but I've had two very upset people contact me, being with the council, just in the last 48 hours about this. And they feel that our fees we're going to be paying will be, for an example, Celia Lake's sewer system that they can't afford. Is that where
Yep.
this money goes to? I don't
No,
know
that-
the answer to
No, the
that.
sewer system, Grace, is that, well, not only do they not have a sewer system there, but,
Right.
that's a completely independent district, wastewater sewer district, independent of Missoula County. And these fees are not funneled into that district.
Okay,
So
that's
let me
good.
give you the list of the fees that are charged, or the services that or the facilities they'd be charged for. They would be charged for, hang on. Okay. General government, so government buildings essentially for county government. Sheriff's office, so that covers law enforcement facilities and detention facilities. Emergency management, so those are for the facilities related to emergency services 911 and a radio system for 911. So those are all countywide, same covered, a proportionate share, everyone covered the same everywhere. And then Frenchtown Rural Fire has specific fees only charged within the Frenchtown Rural Fire District for the Frenchtown Rural Fire District. Then two more, shared use paths and parks and recreation. Those go for new shared use path facilities and new improvements to parks, not park land, but improvements to parks. Those are calculated by that map that has the colors in it for particular service areas. So that's the only case in which the Swan and Sealy, I think, are combined for their service area. But those have to be collected uniquely for that area and used within that area.
Okay, well, that's good to know, because this one fellow came here at actually 8:30 in the morning to my driveway with a handful of papers. He's very,
Yeah.
very upset. And I said, I
Yeah.
don't really know how to answer you.
Yeah. No, that's understandable.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Grace, you ought to charge an impact fee for folks coming to your house so early in the morning.
Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
I had just hung up the phone from the phone call at 8 o'clock before him from another fellow. And it was just, that was Monday. That was Monday morning. It was a crazy Monday.
All
Yeah.
right, thanks for those questions. Rick?
I'd much rather have the elected people answer this question, but I'd like to point out I was on the Impact Fee Advisory Board for over a year and still are. And one of the things, as you already pointed out, somebody pays for new development. It's either the existing people or is it the developer that pays for it? So one way or the other, there's a cost. And also point out that there's been city impact fees for a while. And without county impact fees, there's a disincentive for people to develop in the city and more of an incentive to develop in the county where we don't have infrastructure. So because it's cheaper. So countywide fees help even that burden a little bit too. So just wanted to sort of throw that in.
Thanks, Rick, and apologies for forgetting that you've been a part of all of this. So thanks for your expertise. Grace, did you have another question?
No, does it? Oh, I got to take my hand off. There we go. Sorry.
Okay, sure. Back to Stephanie.
So kind of piggybacking on what Grace was saying about people asking her questions that she may not know the answers to. If somebody was to ask, what kind of money range are we talking? Is it like hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, or tens of dollars?
It's hundreds of thousands. Let me hang on. Let me
No, you're talking total,
Yeah,
Karen,
total-
not per
not
per
building
unit.
permit.
project.
Yeah, per project kind of thing.
Per project,
So like
yeah.
like if some guy is upset because they want to build an addition, like that person that came to Grace's yard. And
He
we could
said
say,
it was
well,
gonna
it's really
cost
not that
him
much.
$4,000 more for his project. I don't know
Mm.
if it's right or wrong.
Okay, well, so in the, hopefully I'm sharing the impact fee schedule. So for
Karen, sorry, could you expand your screen or
Oh,
put it
sure.
in presentation
on that.
mode?
Hang on. Better?
Yeah.
Better.
Okay, hang on. All right. So non-residential development, this is the schedule, this is on the website. And if we're outside the French Emerald Fire District, so these are the industrial, institutional, retail, commercial, office impact fees. So they range from 500 to 2,500 to 2250. For non-residential. And then I'm just gonna go with Sealy. All of these are in the schedule. And like I said, for anyone's particular project, there is an estimator worksheet. So if you were doing a residential in the Sealy service area, which is the Sealy Swan area, you would have to be at a 4,000 plus square foot residential property to be getting close to $4,000 of impact fees. If you're more in the range of 2,500 square feet, you're at 2,000. And if you're at 2,000 square feet, you're at 2,700. So it's not insignificant. It is definitely not insignificant. It's also not $4,000 unless you're really hitting the high end of the square footage in the Sealy. Now it depends on where you're at.
Do you have a schedule also for all the permits that are required? Let's say I was gonna build a 3,000 square foot house. Do you
Yeah,
have
all the permits.
something put together with the fees that it would cost someone to build that house? Like if I was gonna
Yeah.
go down the road.
Unfortunately, we are actually working on that. Someone else suggested that, and so we're working on it. We don't have it up and running yet, but we are working on a calculator that would give you like the full set of fees. They because they're all different departments, we have to like coalesce all the information together, and that's a great idea, and we'll continue to work on that. It's good to know that people think that that's a good idea. But
Yeah,
we don't have that at the moment.
Because I've never built new, so I have no idea. I
Yeah.
hear about the complaints of the costs of all the different permits. So how soon do you think you might be able to have something like that compiled?
I am not sure, but I'll check in and I'll try and reconnect via email with this group.
I
Thank
feel
you.
like within a year, and then also Grace, the building department, they're pretty responsive and will hold your hand and walk you through that process. We're in the midst of it, of building things on the ranch, and they've been really great to work with and walk us through what we need to do when
Right. See, the
they're
reason
human beings will answer your questions and help
Yeah.
help you through the process.
well,
But
part
at
of
this point, it's mostly an individual question thing, and it really has to do with individual circumstances because different people have different needs in terms of whether it's just a standard construction situation, whether they're zoned or not, whether they need septic systems or not, like all of those things radically affect the
I
situation.
think
Go ahead,
that
go
this
ahead,
is
yours.
bare land going forward. If I was to buy a bare lot, a 5-acre lot, whatever, and put septic, power, it's reasonable, you're on a county road. What would it cost me to put a foundation in, septic, a well permit? I don't even know what other permits I would need for the building end of it. And now on top of that is this new fee. I'm kind of curious because this fellow was rattling them all off and I didn't know what to say to him because I've never built a new place.
It's a good question. There is MissoulaCounty.bill. That's the kind of general website we send people to when they have projects that they want to do that coordinates between planning, health, and building. It's unfortunately it's never super simple. There's a number of places in the county that are served by sewer and or water. That really changes the equation. There are places zoned and unzoned. So those are all kind of variables that make it harder. But yeah, I think it's a great idea. We'll work on getting something out there that helps. If I want to do this in this location, what's it going to cost in terms of fees? It'll probably take us a few months though to get that out.
Yeah, I think just general, everybody's going to be uniquely different, a little different than the other guy.
Yeah.
But just like if you're in the Swan Valley and you have an acre, I want to start from scratch. What approximately is that going to cost me? 10,000, 20, 5,000? I mean, like, I have no idea. Versus then you can say in Missoula, in a zoned area, it's going to cost you this. And I'd be very curious to hear zoned versus not zoned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Okay, make it quick. Is there a difference between private and developer, or is it all the same?
There isn't a difference. It's just the per construction. It doesn't have a difference. And there can't be a difference. Essentially, the idea is what is the additional impact of that unit? If it's a residential of a certain square footage or non-residential of a different type, that's how the evaluation is done. What's the additional impact on public facilities for that unit? It doesn't matter who's doing it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Brian? Go ahead, Brian. If you're talking, we cannot hear you, Brian. Sorry. Doesn't look like you're muted, so I'm not sure what the issue might be. What sometimes works is if you just sign off and come back in. That's oftentimes the remedy. So, Brian, we can pick you up later if you come back on and have audio. Any other questions?
I did put my email in the chat, so if people want to just email me quick questions, I'm happy to respond or, yeah.
Okay. Great. All right. Thank you, Karen. Moving on, Emmy Bristow is going to talk to us about methods of community engagement for community councils. I've been sitting on the edge of my chair wondering what you're going to share with us, Emmy. What do you got?
It's very basic, Dave. It's not anything, I mean, it's a lot of you guys, I want to say a lot of you guys are probably doing a lot of this already. I'm just kind of sharing what the county does, just kind of the whole toolbox you can use. You don't have to do all of it, but whatever you think would suit your needs for your community, you're welcome to give it a try and, yeah. So, and I also want to apologize. I saw Karen's really pretty presentation, and here I am going to be talking about the importance of presentation, and mine's like lots of words on the slides, mostly because I'll be sharing it with you all afterward, so that you can reference back to it. So I didn't want to leave it too high level. I wanted to include some details on those. So I'm just going to share my screen here and we'll get going. All right. Ooh, well, no, not conclusion. Start here. Doing that. Sorry. Weird. Okay, well, this is my first slide. Engaging your community, a guide for community councils on ways they can enhance their community engagement. And let's see if this will work now. There we go. So you all know your roles, but just as a little recap, as you all know that you act as liaisons between communities and county staff. This means that council share county information with their community members, as well as report back to the county what they're hearing from the community. We, in communications, really try hard to be proactive with providing information to each of you whenever we know about it. We try to post about stuff as often as we know what's happening in each community around like county projects and whatnot. But we are also limited in capacity as far as making sure we hit every single little piece and audience of your community. And so this is where we will lean heavily on you all who know your community best, know your audiences best, on knowing how to best get information out to everybody, to your neighbors. Hopefully this presentation will help you all and in turn help us get information out in a better way. And hopefully also, since so it was kind of brought up at the last meeting that there's some worry about getting more, or just a need for more folks to attend council meetings. And if you are feeling like you're in this spot, hopefully if you employ some of these tools, you'll be able to get more folks to come to your meetings. So we'll, just go from there. So the first thing to ask yourself before putting out any kind of communication is what topics are of interest in your community. The biggest thing is, don't just communicate the time and date of your council meetings, like make sure to communicate what's actually happening at those meetings. So, and whatever is happening, make sure that you get speakers to attend who can speak to that. And, and that way, when you have that lined up, when you have a speaker and a topic lined up, you can do sort of lead up communications to that as like an exciting, like, hey, next month we got so-and-so talking about this big thing that you all are very interested in, doing sort of lead up communications like that can be more helpful rather than just a constant reminder of like, hey, our meetings are at this time. Hey, our meetings are at this time, because if people don't know what's going to be discussed at the meeting, they probably won't come. So I think that's one of the biggest things you can do. And a lot of you are doing an okay job at this, but just, maybe see if you can do more kind of like fun teasers or lead up information, or, you can have fun with it too. Communications are not all just cut and dry, So, and another thing to keep in mind is whenever you're doing any sort of communications, to make sure that the language, if the language or topic are kind of nuanced or complicated, try to find ways to talk about it in terms that are easy to understand. So we always say use language that a 6th grader could understand. That used to be an 8th grader. We moved it down to 6th grader because, it's just easiest that way. An example would be, and I wouldn't say this is something, 6th grader, 8th grader, but this is just a common thing that we haven't found. So in elections, in state law and in that office and everything, they refer to voters who are like the public, the residents, everybody who votes. They refer to them as electors because they're the ones electing whatever is going to happen. Well, we have found that to be a little bit confusing for folks sometimes. So we don't ever say electors in our communications. We always say voters, because people know, yes, I'm a voter, they don't necessarily refer to themselves as electors, so that's just a little example of ways that you can just kind of play with language to make it a little more accessible to folks who don't work in this kind of stuff all the time. And hopefully you all are already in that spot at being able to even just tell staff like, hey, this is complicated, please simplify. So the next thing to do is identify your channels. Basically, you need to find out where most people in your community get their information. Obviously, this is huge. We're always, this is something we even struggle with at the county, like, and where hopefully you all can know your community best around this. But I mean, this can be varied based on age, race, sexual orientation, religion, language, location, abilities, socioeconomic status, political leaning. All sorts of things can affect where you find your information. So really, we know that this is a Herculean task in a lot of ways. Just do the best you can with the resources that you have. There are lots of mostly free ways you can get information out. And these are just a few that I'm going to kind of run through here quick. I'll go into social media in a little more depth just because that's the most like common and frequently used one. But basically, yeah, there's social media. A lot of you are already using this. Printed flyers on community boards. Again, I'm sure a lot of you are already doing this. If you have them, sandwich boards or other signage on busy roads, I notice East Missoula has a little board out there that's pretty slick. A way to make this easy too, if you want to display like actual information of what's going to happen at the council meeting rather than just, you know, the time and place of the meeting, is like, we have a sandwich board. It's very basic. It just has like Missoula County logo on it, but I print out a laminated little piece of paper that just has like the topic of whatever is going to be discussed and just tape that on there for before whatever event we're going to do. It just a cheaper way rather than having to replace the sign every single time you have a different topic, and to keep it different. So it's not a sign that people just kind of like, because another thing is if you see something so much, it can also become a thing of like, you don't see it anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah, anyway. Another thing you can do, which I'm sure a lot of you have already looked into as well, is event calendars in your community. All sorts of different places tend to have these. We have one at Missoula County, so you're always welcome to let us know what's on your agenda. We can stick it on our calendar. There's also community newsletters. Again, I know some of you are great at doing this, especially with the schools. Schools have great newsletters a lot of times that reach a lot of people in the community. There's also, though, don't forget, there's also like nonprofits and other community organizations tend to do newsletters. So, and a lot of times if you just reach out to them, they're generally really nice and would be happy to get information out if it's something related to the community at large. And that's something that we do at the county as well. So that's how I know that a lot of times they're happy because, yeah. And not, you know, newsletter, email updates of your own. I mean, I don't know, you don't have to necessarily do like a fancy big newsletter that you send out on MailChimp or some crazy thing. You can literally just at your council meetings, get a running email list, collect all those emails into an Excel sheet and email those folks before the next council meeting of like, hey, you know, you're receiving this email because you've come to previous council meetings. Here's the next one coming up. Here's what's on the agenda. Here's who's going to speak. Yeah. And then I put this on here. I don't think this would be as pertinent or usually this costs a lot of money, newspaper notices. I do know, though, I was speaking to somebody in Clinton that you guys have a little free newspaper. So I was like, well, okay, well, if you have something like local and free and, you know, a lot of people access it, like, yes, totally use that. And you can pay for notices if you want, but I don't know how, you know, with people not receiving print newspapers anymore, I don't know how effective that is anymore as much as some of those other channels. But moving on. So kind of a breakdown on social media. Some of the recommended, I guess, platforms that you all can use. And of course, you can use one of these, you can use all of them, you can use two. It really doesn't. It's whatever works for you and your community. But this is what the county uses. And we found those to work really well for getting information out, is Facebook. So that tends to be an older demographic we found, like think baby boomers and Gen Xers. X or Twitter is sort of a mid-range demographic we found, kind of like Gen X, millennial. There's also older folks on there too, but just not as much as Facebook. Instagram is definitely younger. Think like millennials and Gen Z, more millennials, I'd say, like Gen Z is kind of transferring to TikTok anymore, but and then Nextdoor is, this one isn't, I've noted, I mean, this is sort of a mid-range demographic as well, but it's super useful because it's very location based. So just keeping that in mind, some communities are super active on Nextdoor and some are not. And so maybe that might just be you knowing your community and who's active where. And then YouTube isn't really I wouldn't consider that social media so much, but I wanted to put it on here because it's a great place to put any meeting recordings that you have so that people can refer to them later. So if you do record your meetings on Zoom or however, if you upload them to YouTube, that's a great way to share it for anybody who wasn't able to make your meeting. So Facebook, very basic. I'm just going to do super, I know you guys might already know this. I just wanted to do a high rundown, you know, because there's little best practices sometimes that can help you out. Facebook is great for information with an image. We find if it's just, I mean, you can just share information, but we find it doesn't get as much traction as when it has something to stop people, like some sort of image or graphic. Videos are becoming more popular. That's kind of a leak over from TikTok, I think. But, you know, if you want to experiment in that, you're welcome to. Tagging is also important. So you all probably know how to tag on Facebook. You just type in the organization usually, and if they have an account, it'll kind of highlight it and you can choose the organization that you want to tag. And this is a great way to, like, they get a little notification that they're tagged, and then a lot of times they'll share your post and you just get like double engagement. And so that's where tagging can be really important on these channels. Hashtags are not as popular on Facebook. I would kind of just stay away from them. That's where people, yeah, do the little pound sign and a little saying or whatever. And you can reshare posts as often as you want. You can share them as your story, which is like a little video that ends after one full day. And you can include links in your posts. So Facebook is a super user-friendly, easy platform. I know a lot of you are already on it and know how it works. And you're probably like, okay, this is way too much information. We already know all this, but you know, I'm just going through all of them. The next one, X, formerly known as Twitter, is great for information. We actually don't see a huge, like, images are also great, but I wouldn't say that you have to do an image every time you post on X. We find that we get kind of just as good of engagement without images, if it's a really pertinent informational post that people want to hear about. Again, tagging is important, just like on Facebook. Hashtags, not so much. You can repost, you know, other posts. There's no like stories function though, so just keep that in mind. And also X is limited in characters, and so you can't do a super long post, which can actually be helpful to like simplify your language and your message that you want to get out there. But if you need to do a longer one, you can create a thread, and that's just by clicking a little plus sign right next to post, and you can just kind of create a longer thread of posts. And just like Facebook, on X, you can include links. So where Instagram is a little different with all of this is that you have to have an image on Instagram. You cannot just post information. And it's very image focused. And most people, they're there for the images. And so it's not like, if you want to get out information, the best way to do that is put it in the images. I found, like in slides of some kind. Videos are also very popular on Instagram, just as they are on all the other platforms right now that are, yeah, they're just trying to kind of copy TikTok a bit, but, and hashtags and tagging are both important on Instagram. Hashtags are just like, it's a way where people can search. So if you do a hashtag, make sure it's one that's used often so that it will pop up in a search. So if it's something related to a development, if you do hashtag development, like that's going to be more popular than like hashtag whatever subdivision, blah, 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 you know, like that's not going to be as popular. People won't find that as easily. And you can also, yeah, you can't like reshare posts as a whole new post like you can on Facebook. On Instagram, you can share them as your story though still. And stories, again, are only there for like one day and then they disappear. And basically you can archive stories into like little categories if you want, so that people can refer back to them. So that's kind of a way to like keep those around. And a big thing to keep in mind with Instagram is that you can't link in your post. So if you add a link to your post, just know people can't click on it. It's not hyperlinked. You'll have to put the link in your bio, which is the little explanation on your main page. And basically, you can only have one link in your bio. And so if you want to have multiple links in there, you can create a separate Linktree account. Basically, I'm not sure if Instagram is like I mean, you guys know your audience is best. If you have a lot of young folks and you want to hit them, like Instagram is a great outlet, but just know it's a little different than the other two channels. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. But it is a good way to get information out. Nextdoor is I'd say it could be very important for you all, especially because it can be very location-based information. And so you can choose, again, like image is great, but not required. It's location specific. So you can choose the neighborhoods you prefer to post to. So you don't have to post to the entire county. Like you can post to specific neighborhoods where you live. And you can include links in the posts. But beware that even if you have a larger account, it will still show you as the person posting. And so you'll see your name and everything as the one posting. So if it's something like you want a little more distance there, that's not really an option on Nextdoor. So make sure whoever's posting is comfortable with that and is fine with their name being attached to all those posts. And actually, maybe I'll show you guys some examples of like how it looks, so you know what I mean. So like on this, see, I posted this, it shows my face and my name, whereas like on Facebook, it doesn't show that. It just shows Missoula County. So just keeping that in mind. And then as far as how Instagram looks, again, this is how you can kind of like categorize and save your stories so that people can refer back to them. And this is our Linktree account. We have lots of links that we're always needing people to visit. So that's and that's just a separate little account that just includes all the different links. And it's free. You can just create one. It's no problem. Let me go back to this. So, now it goes back to the beginning, of course. So here's getting to the meat of things. Creating a schedule. The most important thing with all of this is to stay consistent. If you don't post to your channel often, people won't continue following you. Don't expect people to stick around if you're not ever putting out information. And so to keep people sticking around, like put out information, not just around when your council meetings are happening, but like any time in between. If you have any information, you can even just share stuff from the county. You can, you can get creative with it. But so what we do is we have like an Excel sheet that we all in communications have access to, and we kind of delegate who posts what days. And it's super simple. We just have a little checklist like, okay, like you're posting this at noon, I'll post this at 4 p.m. tomorrow, and so you all can do that super easily. If you have like, I know a lot of you use like Gmail accounts with your council and whatnot. You can create a Google Sheets with that Gmail account and use that to keep track so that everybody can access it. And just an idea so that you can have a little calendar for yourself, because I know it can get to be overwhelming to think about like how often you need to be putting out information. Another thing is scheduling out posts in advance is super helpful. And you can do that pretty easily if you go to the Facebook or Meta Business Suite. Meta owns both Facebook and Instagram. And so, and the way you find that is if you just like go to your normal Facebook page and then you go to this little Meta Business Suite over here, and it turns up this little fancy place where you can create a post. And this is kind of nice. So see it. I mean, we don't do this because we like to separate our language on Instagram and Facebook. But if if it's just a matter of getting information out, you can totally just do the same post to both. Add a photo, add your information in, and then you can set a time or day, and you can set those for both platforms and then click schedule, and you don't have to worry about it. You can leave those posts will go up at those times. And it's a pretty nice tool to use. You can do the same thing on X by clicking this little schedule button. You can schedule out your post there. So just so you know, that's an option for you if you don't want to go in lots of times a day to post something. Oh my gosh, I hate how this keeps starting over. I think I pretty much hit that. So this is really big. As an extension of county government, you all are held to the same standard. I actually learned this recently from our attorneys, so we will make sure to get you guys more information around like the policy around this and everything. But because you guys are an extension of the county, you are held to the same standards that we are held to on social media, which means we cannot delete or moderate comments because of the First Amendment, because of all of that. So let's say, people post something on your, Facebook post that's like really just rude and not helpful and kind of misinformation, and you want to take it down. Well, you can't. And so just keep that in mind every time you post. You can try to respond to them and try to, and sometimes that just kind of adds fuel to the fire, depending on who, sometimes people like to use these as platforms, right? Rather than a place to learn and get questions answered. But really the only exception for taking down a comment is obscenity or direct actionable threats, which is super, super narrow. And I would even I feel like I would still reach out to attorneys and be like, hey, can we take, is this truly that, because anything that's vulgar, disrespectful, or otherwise inappropriate, we need to leave. So if your social media pages do become, I looked at all of your guys's that's already up there. None of them seem that bad. I don't think you guys have been deleting or moderating comments because I don't think you've had to at all. But if you feel like your social media page is becoming a hostile place and it's just, you got the same 4 kind of, we call them trolls, that are just not leaving, and they're going to, really just riling things up and making people feel uncomfortable, or, any of that. You are allowed to turn off your comments in a blanket way, before you even post it, they're all turned off. And I just, probably just talk to us at the county if you guys feel like you're getting to that point. We can walk you through that. We have a little blanket statement that you can put in your settings that says, if you want to leave a comment, here's who you can talk to, separately. Kind of do it that way so people can still have their voice heard, but it's not in such a hostile way, I guess. But hopefully your guys' pages are positive and this isn't an issue. So next thing, designing your communications. We use this super great free platform called Canva. I very much, would suggest it to anybody. It's very easy to use. Basically, well-designed graphics grab attention fast. We aren't all graphic designers, but Canva really does help with this. It's free. It provides templates. You can, it really can help you make more attention-grabbing graphics. That can be for flyers, Facebook posts, Instagram posts, really anything you need. You can create it in Canva pretty much. It's pretty amazing. You can also add QR codes in Canva. It's kind of, it always amazes me what all you can do in that platform, and it's free. So definitely recommend it. And I put a little example down here of an okay designed graphic and a really poorly designed graphic for an example of, what would you stop and look at? You'd probably look at the one with colors and big, bold lettering and very clear information right up front that, rather than this one with weird fonts that's really tiny and sized very small and just not very readable or exciting to see. So just keeping in mind that design is pretty important when you want people to stop and read your information. And so really just some design basics. Again, you guys might already know all this, but I'm just gonna run through it really quick. Basically keep it simple, bold, and eye-catching. Make sure it's sized correctly for the social media platforms you're posting to. Don't post something that's like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper on Facebook, because it will make the font look tiny. It doesn't translate well. And this is where Canva can really help with this. They already have graphics you can choose that just says Instagram size, and it will create a little thing, and it's super easy. Stick to an eye-pleasing color palette. No one likes too many clashing colors. I know that this can be a little bit subjective, but not really. We know that certain colors just don't look good together a lot of times. Make sure there's enough contrast. And also, just using a pleasing photo is really helpful too. We all a lot of us have, smartphones anymore. We can take nice photos really quick and throw those up there. So you can always use photos instead. And don't use too many different fonts. So like that previous graphic read, like 3 different fonts, like you don't need that many fonts. Really just keep it simple. Basically what the very basic rule of thumb is, like for headings, keep it big and bold and sort of sans serif. Use maybe a serif one if, like for your subheading, and then just a very easy to read one for actual information. So like we use Arial for our headings and for our text, and then for our subheadings, we use Rockwell. And serif just means that there's little feet on the end of the letters. So like Times New Roman or Rockwell or serif. Sans serif would be like Arial, as you can see here. So, and then, yeah, QR codes are also super helpful. Make sure to include shortened links. Don't include like a really long link on something that you're printing out and giving to somebody, because they won't sit at home and type in all those little letters. So just some basics like that. There's all sorts that you can probably find a site out there that can help shorten your link for you. Or like I said, Canva has a way for you to create a QR code. So yeah. That's kind of some very basics. And of course, as you're doing all of this, just make sure to keep accessibility in mind. This is something we're always working on improving at the county as well. This means adding alt text to images on your social media posts. So say you're posting to social media, you have an image, you can click edit image. And actually, I'm going to probably go in and show you this as an example. So let's say I am adding a random, I don't know. Yeah, sure. We'll do this Zootown Arts mini gala thing. So if that's a very tough alt image, I'm going to do a different one. Let's see. Gosh, I don't remember what half of these are. I think, yeah. So this is our post that we just did today. So, but if we were to do, so somebody with a screen reader wouldn't be able to know what that image says, right? And if this is going on Instagram, like that's important. That's where we're putting most of our information, because people who can see, that's how they use that app. And so what we do with this is we just want to click edit and add alt text and just type in basically what it says. So Missoula County logo. And I kind of line it up like it is on the deal. You don't need to say like image of blah, 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 because they already know on their screen reader that it's an image. So you can just say kind of what it says. So the county reappraise, yeah, all of that. And you just kind of describe it. And
Emmy, this is Dave. Just wondering if you might be able to just wrap it up here in a couple minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll
Sorry.
have time for questions.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm taking a little while. Well, anyway, remember alt text. You can just click the edit button on most places to kind of get more into that. Remember to add subtitles to videos. You can do this really easily on YouTube. They have an AI created one. Make sure that your images and graphics are contrasted enough so that if people are colorblind, they can still see them clearly. Again, make sure everything's large and bold. Yeah, avoid using too many emojis. Those are also really hard to pick up on a screen reader. And if you're doing any kind of short links or hashtags, make sure to capitalize where you can, because screen readers pick those up more easily as well. Yeah, that's just that's it. In conclusion, basically just know the information you need to get out, know your audience and what they want to hear about. Choose your channels and which information to put on those channels, get a communication schedule created, and make sure others can help you with that. Stay consistent and use those best practices that I described. And yeah, have fun with it. So apologies that took a little while.
Thanks, Emmy. And it sounds like this presentation will be available for everyone. And I would encourage you to share it with your fellow community council members, because the folks on the line today may or may not be the folks who are actually doing some of the nuts and bolts work here. And who would have thunk that Mark Zuckerberg is actually associated with the older generation and baby boomers? Holy smokes. Anyway, yes, Grace, go ahead.
Yeah, Brian texted me his question he wanted to ask. Is Karen Hughes still available?
Hey, Grace, while
Yes.
this is still fresh in people's minds, can you hold the question just for a minute and we'll take
Sure.
questions on Emmy's presentation and then loop back to that in just a moment? Okay, thank you. Let's see, Stephanie.
Real quick, what you said, you cannot delete or moderate comments. What does moderate mean in that example?
So basically hide them. You know how
Okay.
sometimes you can have the option to hide comments, like you can't really, just anything that makes it look like you're, hiding or deleting information or, being favoritive of certain people. So.
Okay. Thanks.
Good question, Stephanie. Others? Okay. All right. Thanks, Emmy. That was a lot of, oh, did I have a question?
I thought I raised my hand. This is Chris Handley.
Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, so the thing about deleting comments. So we hid posts from a couple of people because they were like weight loss advertisements on our page. It was on our Facebook page, and they were unpleasant to look at, and they were just inappropriate. What do you say about that?
You have to leave it. I'm sorry. I know it's painful. We've had, it's very, very rare cases can we get rid of those things. And I know that we're only just telling you guys this. We should have, I don't know. I didn't think about it till I was creating this. And I was like, wait, do they have the same, are they held to the same standards as we are? And talking to attorneys, they're like, yes. So I'll make sure that you all get, I'll work with Allison as she gets she's the communications manager here. I'll work with her this next week and make sure that we get you guys all of that information so that, you have it all and you're within the line of the law. I'm not worried if you hit a couple, like I don't think that we would get sued for that, but but it's just kind of and it's a bummer, right? I mean, that's why we've had to turn off comments on our Facebook page because we've just had a few people that just would not, it became a very negative space where maybe other people wouldn't want to follow or engage with because of that. So, and that's, kind of, if you're worried about stuff like that, we can talk more in depth about ways we can help, I guess.
Thanks, Emmy. And
Thank
thanks,
you.
Chris, for the question. Anyone else related to the communications topic? Okay, back to you, Grace, with Brian's question.
All right. He wants to know if he builds a barn, additional barn if he builds an additional barn for his horses, what is the impact to government? Can I expect better service?
Okay, Karen.
For that scenario, I don't think we would charge any impact fees because there wouldn't be the kind of impact to government facilities that would trigger that. So like I said, it's not for all development. They're charged at the time of building permit, but it's only for the kind of construction that contributes to additional use of public facilities. So a horse barn is not going to be there. Now, if the horse barn has an office and is used for a business, that might be different. So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or unless the horse is really pampered and living in a single family home, that might trigger something.
Yeah, even when you think of multifamily development, so there's, the individual units and there's outside walkways, say, or stairwells, those types of things wouldn't contribute. It's the units, it's the place where people live, or in the case of a business, it's the business space, right? And those are the things that contribute to impacts. And Rick's going to hopefully correct me or.
Okay, that question triggered a flurry of hands coming up. Thanks for the question, Brian, and Grace for relaying that. Let's see, Danica, and then Rick.
Yes, it is. Yeah. I just real quick, since you mentioned that the barn would be exempt, and I'm looking on the website and it says the impact fees apply to additions like greenhouses, barns, or other detached accessory structures. So, and I apologize that I haven't had a chance to dive deep into this, but how would we know, since it clearly says on the website it applies to a barn, how would you know that it doesn't?
It depends on the individual circumstances. So we have to look at the individual circumstances. So if the barn is being used for a business or being used for like a horse shows and that sort of thing, like it could. So it's any new construction, but there is a certain set of exemptions that or exceptions that pull you out, and we have to look at those on a case by case basis. And it's really about whether or not it's going to have an impact that would trigger an impact fee. So I wish I would love to give a black and white answer, but that's, I guess, the best way I can suggest to think about it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Rick?
Yeah, I'm certainly not going to add any correction. I was going to ask, how about an accessory dwelling unit, like a mother-in-law apartment? That might hold a person in it, so.
Yeah, that's different. Accessory dwelling units, because they are used for residences, would be considered an additional residential structure. Now, accessory dwelling units by definition are typically accessory, so they're going to be charged less. They're smaller units, typically less impact on facilities, so they're going to end up usually being charged less in impact fees. In areas that are zoned, I think we have, I can't remember if it's 1,000 or 1,200 square foot cutoff, and so they're going to be definitely in that smaller unit range. And again, it depends on the district what the actual fees end up being, but that's, yes, they'll have an impact. And so yes, we require the impact fee, but because of the nature of them being accessory and typically smaller, it's going to be less.
I think they have to be under 1,000 square feet. I'm also on planning and zoning.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, Karen, and thanks, Rick. And all of this is a good segue into our next presentation, which is related to a survey, a building exemption survey that is out there or will be out there. And Kevin, do you want to fill us in on this?
Yes, thanks, Commissioner Strohmeyer. So yeah, I'm Kevin Heisler. I'm the building official for Missoula County, and currently out on Missoula County Voice platform, we have a survey put out to gather feedback from all the residents of the county on what exemption options they would like the county commissioners to consider exempting from requiring a building permit. So currently in the county, unless it's 200 square feet or less and just used as storage, it requires a building permit if it's anything outside of that. If it's a deck less than 30 inches off a grade, not attached to the structure, that wouldn't require a building permit either. So really there's not a lot of exemptions right now in the county, right? And we used to have an agricultural exemption. We got rid of that a couple of years ago. And that's mainly because it was being misused. But this survey encompasses a lot of different options that is afforded to the county commissioners by Montana Code Annotated 50-60-102, and it clearly outlines different options for them to consider. And so it doesn't mean they're going to exempt all of those. It just means they're going to take all that information once that survey closes, which is April 5th. So it's been open for about a week. We've had a little over 400 visits on the page, and I think about 60 people complete the survey so far. And April 11th, I'm planning on doing a presentation to the commissioners on all the data. And then they can take that information and decide what they would potentially like to exempt in the county from requiring a building permit. And so just keep in mind that this doesn't exempt certain things from still needing, say something did get exempted, like let's say a greenhouse got exempted. You would still need to check in with land use and health department. It doesn't exempt it from anything. The Montana Code Annotated is very specific on that. It just applies to building permits.
Thanks, Kevin. And part of the backstory here is that building permits are intended as a mechanism to help protect life safety and make sure that folks are building stuff that isn't going to injure or kill someone in the home or some future homeowner down the line. But having said that, this is an opportunity to just do a temperature check. Are there some things that we might be regulating and potentially over-regulating, and maybe the pendulum has swung too far? So the commission thought it is time maybe we see what's on folks' minds and recalibrate if necessary. So Danica.
Yes, thank you. So I have a feeling that many in our communities, particularly out in some of these rural areas, were not quite aware of the restrictions that were going to be placed on the exemptions when the resolution passed that basically defined, under 200 square feet, and it can only be used for storage. So I would like to ask, could you possibly extend this survey date so that we as community councils could have the opportunity to bring this up as an agenda item and just make people in our community more aware that this survey exists? I'm afraid right now, not very many people may be visiting Missoula County Voice and may not even be aware that the survey exists. However, if we're able to put it on the agenda and bring it up at our community meetings, they can spread the word with their neighbors, and more of them may be apt to participate in that survey, knowing that this affects things like their chicken coops and their greenhouses and their livestock shelters and things of that nature. So if you might consider maybe extending that date so that we could get it on our agendas, we would really appreciate that.
And what is the name of the survey again?
So I believe it's, let me look at the webpage. Building permit
Kyla put it in the
exemptions.
chat.
Yeah, there's a link in the chat.
And thanks for that suggestion, Donna and Danica. I'm sorry. We'll kick that around, and there's nothing time sensitive about this. This is an opportunity to perhaps actually loosen up some of our regulations as opposed to tightening them up. So I don't see any harm in contemplating an extension. Other questions or comments on this? Okay, well, check out the link in the chat. Share it with your colleagues on the community councils and with your respective communities, and more to come on that. And we'll be sure to let folks know if we extend the period of the survey. So thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that. Okay, with that, we are coming down to the wire for the final segment of the meeting. This is just our standard round robin where representatives from each of the community councils the community councils that are actually present tonight can share what's happening in your neck of the woods if you want. No pressure. Kyla, would you mind running through the community council list?
Sure. Just quickly for the record, I have a phone caller ending in 7517. Can you let me know the name so I can put that in the record? Star 6 to
my name is
unmute.
Sadie Reeves.
Sadie, what was the last name? I'm sorry.
Reeves, R-E-E-V-E-S.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I had one other member join us that I don't know who they are. It's Mathy, M-A-T-H-I. Would you like to provide your name for the record, please? Okay, we will get back to that. We'll go straight into West Valley. Tom Tucker, are you still online?
Yes, I am.
Any updates for us tonight? We can hear you.
Okay, the only thing that we've got going on is next month, second Thursday of the month, which will be on the 11th, we're having a round robin over at the high school at the Commons area. It'll start somewhere between the time of 6 to 6:30, and it's about all of the folks that are running for re-election or elections, for the districts. And so anybody interested can attend that meeting. It will not be at the fire hall. The meeting has been moved over to the Frenchtown High School Commons area. So that's the only thing I can mention.
Thanks,
Hey,
Tom.
Tom, can I just add, so that's actually, I think you're referencing the West Valley Community Conversation. Is that
Yeah.
so that, okay, so that will be at 6:30 at the, yes, at the Frenchtown High School. And it's gonna have like it'll be like these other community conversations we've been having in these other places. We'll have county officials from all the public facing departments show up and, yeah, have small group conversations with folks. And, as far as I know that West Valley Council, you guys will all be there to help, kind of, yeah, get more folks on your board and yeah, get the word out that you guys are trying to, yeah, get more
Yeah,
folks.
and just for clarification, this is not a candidate forum. This is an opportunity for county staff to come out to communities and, as Emmy mentioned, to answer questions and just hear what's on folks' minds.
So we're looking forward to see the county commissioners out there, right?
Yep, we attend them all, Tom.
Okay, that's it then.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Tom. Grace, if you
Well-
have anything, I'd like to go to you quickly. She may have already had to hop off. We'll go ahead and move up to Tom Browder with Sealy. Are you still on?
Indeed, I am. Nothing special to report, except that with our pending mill closure, there's a lot of angst and concern in the community and the council. I think our next meeting will be on the 8th. So we'll start obviously factoring in, working with the nonprofits, seeing what maybe can be done in terms of helping folks who may be losing their jobs, find other ones. I'm sure you've all seen we've been inundated by reporters. I mean, it's like we became famous all of a sudden. But it gets down to housing for mill workers, and which gets to the sewer, and none of that is going to get fixed immediately. Although I think we're seeing a more concern now with groups like the sewer board, which, as Dave mentioned about something else, that's its own district. And there's talk again about a resort tax. So yeah, that's really what's going on now. We would like to have, if not in April, in May, one of the commissioners come up and just fill us in on what the county thinks might be doable from their perspective.
Yeah, Tom, I think I might be able to make it up on the 8th for your next meeting. But I guess in addition, and more importantly, are there others that you would like to have at that meeting? For instance, Missoula Economic Partnership. That there's a whole cast of folks involved in trying to figure out how to assist with this obviously huge transition that's going on in Sealy with the proposed closure of the mill. And you don't have to answer right now. If you wanted to think about that and just let us know if there's specific staff or individuals you'd like at your meeting, we can try to get them there.
I'll do that. And the first agenda item on the basic needs grant, I'll certainly be talking with my friends and the other nonprofits, particularly the Community Foundation, because that's something we probably should take a look at pretty quickly. Yeah, we'll let you know. We'll be in touch.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Great, thanks, Tom. Let's go ahead and move to Danica and Steve. Do you have any updates?
I'll just pop in real quick. We just recently had our Lolo community conversation, which was great. We appreciate the commissioners and all the county staff coming out for that. I personally felt like and heard from other community members that that was a good forum, having the smaller little tables in which, you know, we could actually have discussions with each of the staff and commissioners. So we thank you guys for that. I'll let Steve chime in if he has anything else to add.
Steve, are you out there? You're muted if you're trying to talk. Oh, nothing to add. Okay, thank you.
Nothing to add. All right, we will go ahead and move to Stephanie with East Missoula. Did you have any other things to share?
I don't. We are still working through Sue's tragedies, or it's been a little slow for us, but we did have a meeting last month, and kind of I did most of the talking since I'd done the response letter about the Aspire subdivision. So we just answered questions that people might have about Aspire, and I believe that we are on track to have a meeting in April. So hopefully back on track, and we all feel for Sue. So.
Well, yeah, thanks for that, Stephanie, and certainly our condolences also. The one announcement related to East Missoula, I'll get it out there on the table for folks. We were successful in a $24 million grant that combined with $6 million in matching monies from the state of Montana and Missoula and Missoula City, the city of Missoula and Missoula County. If it's a $30 million project, and this is to basically implement the Highway 200 corridor plan through East Missoula, redo that infamous bridge, railroad bridge overpass that is such a safety hazard. So this is a huge deal. I know folks have been anxious for something to happen for years and years, and it's taken years and years to get to this point. But this is a huge deal for our community, and persistence pays off. Actually, tomorrow we were scheduled to have the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, come out to East Missoula and take a walking tour of the project. But as all of you, or many of you probably know, there was a tragedy back in Baltimore with the bridge collapse, and he had to relocate there rather than coming out to Missoula. We'll try to get him back at a later date, but we're super successful with the work that we've done collaboratively with the community council and others to get this over the finish line.
I agree. Nicely said.
Thanks, Stephanie. Back to you.
All right. Yeah, we'll
Kyla.
go ahead and move on to Clinton, Chris, or Frankie. Do you have anything?
Hi, this is Chris. So we now have an option for people to join virtually to our meetings. We've been doing that since February now. And I had a question probably for Emmy. Well, first, in the interest of spreading the word and community interest, we are going to have a little booth at the grand opening on June 1st of the little skate park in Clinton. So we're going to set up a little tent and perhaps maybe hand out surveys to get an idea from community members what they would like to hear at meetings, what their concerns are for the community. Is that appropriate to do that? And have other councils done surveys, and how have they done that?
I think that's totally appropriate to do. Yeah. And if you guys, we still have a Missoula County Voice page for your guys' council since it was just very recently created. We can also use that as a platform if you guys want. But if you also just want to, I don't know how, if you just want to do something, written while you're at the event, or if you think that your community would receive it well if we did an online survey, or we could do both, I mean, yeah, we can talk through that. You can reach out to me and we can work through how to. I've been working on that event right now with Jackson Lee over in the parks, trails, and open lands. So we can definitely talk through how to do that booth.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jack's, yes, one of our council members approached him and he said, yeah, that would be okay. My next question is for the community conversation from West Valley's question and conversation tonight. It sounds like the council can set up a booth at this community conversation. Is that correct?
Yeah, we can start doing that more. That we haven't, I mean, as you know, this is our first year doing these. We've been kind of like figuring out how best to do them and talking to the West Valley Community Council. They're very interested in having a booth there. The only thing is we can talk through that more too as we get closer as far as what you want your role to be in that. Whether you want to be more part of the conversations and at the tables, or whether you want to be manning that booth. It's kind of what you want out of it. So we can talk through that more as we get closer to planning that event, if you want, Chris.
Great. So one other question about that, and then I'm done.
You're good.
So can other local boards have little booths? For example, the fire department, they're always seeking volunteers. They have not approached us. I mean, I don't even know if they know that this community conversation is happening, but yeah, that's my question. Can other local boards be a part of that community conversation?
I guess I would see what boards would be interested first. I don't know if I would put out an open call. So this conversation is very fast. You don't have a lot of time to talk. Residents will come, and like the biggest thing we get is like, I just wanted more time to talk to each group, right? We have 8 stations. You only get like 12 to 15 minutes with each station. It's a very fast moving thing. And so if there's just I don't think it's to have tons of like other tables, then I think that would just be a little much for residents to like be able, I think that might kind of take away, but we can talk through getting the fire department, like at this last one we had rural fire at a table with the Office of Emergency Management. We can definitely do that with your event as well, and with Clinton. So we can talk through how to involve certain services, but we can talk more in detail as we get closer. Every community, we'll make sure that it's tailored to each community and that it fits you all well. So
yeah, thanks. So Chris, just give some thought in terms of what other community groups might be interested in having a table and or having a presence there, and we can figure out whether to integrate them into the kind of the rotation of experts and county departments, or allow them the opportunity to have literature at a table, or there's before and after the event, there might be opportunities for folks to table.
Okay. Well, I want to be clear. We have not approached anybody about it.
Okay.
It was just a thought.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
We'll talk through that more in detail. I'll set up a meeting with you to actually talk about your event and work through all the details. So we'll figure that out.
Yay.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. Back to you, Kyla.
Okay. Last but certainly not least is Bonner, Rick, or Jane. Do you have anything?
Sure. Our last meeting, we did do a survey, and one we had put forth, I think, at the last all community council meeting about having a subcommittee to come up with a vision for community growth. Our survey found 11 people favored that, 2 didn't. We also asked who'd want to participate. 2 said they would be on the subcommittee, 7 maybe, and 4 no. So we are exploring that issue by having a meeting separate from our meeting on the 8th, I think on the 10th, just to start a conversation. That's about as far as we've gone with that. Let's see, what else happened? I think that's the biggest thing happening. We're getting in our oaths of office, and we are fully staffed again. Emily Herndon and I have been reappointed by acclamation or re-elected by acclamation. So we're full and we'll get our oaths in as well. And I think that's about it. Jane, if you've got anything.
Apparently not, or she is muted.
Hey, Commissioner Strohmeyer, or Kyla, is Steve from Lolo still on?
I am,
He is.
Commissioner.
Oh, okay. What is the internet or Wi-Fi capacity or your ability to stream meetings in Lolo or at the community center? I'm kind of unclear on what the situation is there. We had heard folks ask about that at our community conversation.
As far as I know, for the last few months, we've been having MCAT come and they record the meeting.
Oh, great. So it's aired on MCAT.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay.
In most cases, there's been a couple times recently I haven't seen MCAT show, but I'd say since we've got them online and Danica was instrumental in that, we've probably had at least 50% of the meetings streamed, or not streamed, but on MCAT.
Okay, so they're Steve, they're recorded. They're not streaming live. Is that
Correct.
right? Okay,
Yes.
so the request that we got the other day, I think, was along the lines of wanting it streamed live in some fashion, and the concern was that there may not be the internet capabilities at the community center to do that, and I was not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of infrastructure the community center has.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised though that we could stream it from there. I believe we probably could. We just need to get that set up. And probably the person to talk to that about that would be Danica. She seems really good with, she's the one that got MCAT to come. And she's also very tech savvy. I'm the last person you want doing that to.
No, this is
Okay.
super helpful. Thank you.
Well,
bet.
yeah, maybe Steve, maybe have that conversation amongst yourselves there, and if you need some assistance from the county and in terms of strategizing, let us know.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner.
You bet. All right. Well, I think, Kyla, if I'm not mistaken, is that everyone?
That
Oh.
should be everyone, unless I missed somebody that didn't have a chance to give an update.
This is Jane Kipp. I have been on this meeting. I was wondering if anybody else had trouble accessing the meeting today. It took me 25 minutes to get in. And then for the first half hour, about every minute or two, it would kick me off. And I don't know whether it's mine. It's cleared up now, but it was really hard the first hour to participate at all.
Jane, something to try the next time. We've seen that I've had this personally happen to me. If I'm using Microsoft Teams and I don't have a particularly strong internet connection, what you described will happen. And in those cases, I turn off the video, and it's not ideal, but it at least allows you to participate in the meeting, even if you don't have the video of yourself available. But
okay, I'll give it a try, but I've never had troubles before. But I had every kind of problem imaginable. And for a while, probably for the first half hour, I was just listening on the phone. But what it would do is a little screen would pop up in the middle and it'd say, oops, you're being disconnected. And then all of a sudden it'd be fine again. And then a minute later, oops, you're being disconnected. And I had no idea why.
yes, it mysteriously does that sometimes. And again, what I found is more often than not, it's my internet connection on my end that's messing it up, but not always.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Well, thanks everyone for going over time a little bit tonight. This was a great meeting with a lot of information shared. If you have any questions, as I've said a couple times previously, don't hesitate to reach out to the commissioner's office or staff or Kyla in particular. And please do share this information that you garner from these meetings with your respective community councils. And I don't know if that might mean having a designated agenda item, standing agenda item on your community council agendas to share what you've learned at these meetings, or just integrate it somehow into your council meetings so that the community at large can benefit from these conversations too. Any final words from anyone? All right. Well, thank you all, and we will see you next month.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.